Good afternoon to all my fellow resin artists. Today I'm going to be making an ocean-themed resin tray. This is a 13-inch round tray with rope handles, and we're going to be using chipped seashells at the base. We're going to be using, or I'm going to be using, my trusty ProGlas 1000 clear coat resin. I'm going to use, as always, the Lace White Mermaid Trash pigment for the waves, and my colors are going to be Mermaid Trash Calypso, Shop the Nerdy Birdie Aqua, and Shop the Nerdy Birdie Turquoise. We'll also need mixing cups, pouring cups, stir sticks, heat gun, torch, and as always, never mix without safety, so you'll need respirator and gloves. Let's get started. I'm going to start this art project by pouring out a good amount of crushed shells. I spent a lot of time pushing them around, trying to decide the shape I wanted them to have. I tried an angle, I tried ocean waves, and finally I decided I just had way too much of the crushed glass on the tray, so I took away a good amount and ended up liking the way that they looked when I just shook them out and let it go natural. And that's the way it is quite often. Going with the natural flow is the best way to go. Next, I pour out an equal amount of resin into each of my 3 cups for the pigment, as well as the little shot glass for the lace. With the leftover resin, I'm going to pour over the crushed shells so that the resin adheres them to the tray. Once I've got all that resin out of the cup, I'm going to pick up the tray and tilt it toward me until all that resin runs down and covers all the shells. Then I'm going to mix up my lace for the ocean waves and all of my colors. It's good to start with less color and then add more. It's like cutting your hair. You can always cut more, but you can't put it back on. It's the same thing with pigment. Start with less and add more as you feel the need. As you go through the stirring process, the first colors that you mixed are going to settle a bit, and as you're creating your artwork, that happens. So every time you're going to pour, you want to give it a good stir first, just to make sure your colors are evenly distributed. And once you get everything mixed, and you'll see me do this here in a minute, you want to just pick up some resin and let it flow off your stick to see if the color is deep and rich as you want it. And if not, at that time you can add more. This is a favorite color combination. I like the light effect of the 3 colors. It looks like the ocean on a bright sunny day. It's one of my faves. So I get ready to pour and realize that this tray does not look level. I know that my workstation tilts forward just a bit, so normally I'll have to add a stir stick in the front of the work closest to me, but in this instance it seemed to be tilted toward the back, which tells me that the tray was not level on the bottom. I keep a level on my workstation for this purpose, and it's a good idea for you to do as well. It's very frustrating to get through a whole project and then realize that it's slanted to one side or the other. While I was doing all that measuring, a lot of bubbles came to the top, and so I just did a quick hit it and quit it method with the torch. You never want to leave that torch on resin very long, especially not in a paper cup. So you just hit it and quit it. I'm laying down the turquoise color at the top, making sure to get all of that wonderful resin out of the cup and pushing it to the very edges of the tray so everything adheres well. I thought I wanted to do the Calypso color next, but quickly realized when I laid down that first little bit of color that those two blues were more similar in color than I wanted for the look I was going for. So I went back and put the aqua down next. That's a more natural look. When you're at the beach, if you look out, you very often see that green shade of water just out from the shore a bit before you get into the deep blue of the ocean. And for those of you who live in the middle of the country, take my word. And come to the beach sometime. It's good for your soul. Finally, I'm going to lay down the Calypso. That barrier of clear resin that I covered the seashells with is a dual purpose. In addition to adhering the shells down, it forms a barrier to keep that that pigmented resin from flowing down and covering all the shells. It's kind of like a wall that stops it. After I torch it to pop all the bubbles, I realized that I've got two really hard lines of color, and it was not the look I was going for. So I just used my gloved hand to mix that up a little bit and give it a wispier look, because that is not how it is in the ocean. You don't have fine defined lines between the colors of the depths of the ocean. Next, I'm going to lay down my lines of white lace to get the waves and the cells. Once I get that down, I'm going to torch it to soften the resin a bit so it moves in a better manner to get those flowy ocean waves I'm looking for. You want to go just above the line of white. It's a trial and error trick that you learn how to push that white along the top of the resin instead of blowing it into the resin. It's an angle that you hold the heat gun that creates that flowing on top of the resin. It's a trial and error, but the good news is you can keep going over it until you get it right. It takes 10 to 15 minutes or longer for the cells to start to form. So this is where patience is a virtue, because when you want to see those cells really quickly, you'll be tempted to use the torch again and again, and that is just going to heat your resin too quickly And then those cells won't form at all because your resin will start to cure. So while you want to go back and pop bubbles a time or two, you don't want to keep using the heat to make the cells form. That'll come naturally. So I'm just waiting to make sure that there's not going to be any movement I'm not happy about. And this is my finished artwork 24 hours later. I did go back and put a clear coat of resin over the top, so this art piece could be used as a food tray. As long as you lay a layer of clear resin over the top with no pigments or other additives, then you have got an FDA approved layer of resin for food. I hope you enjoyed this video and come back and visit again. Let's all keep learning together.